G'day friends and fans, and welcome to Dave Talks Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 26th of October 2025. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, author of the books The Boyhood-Aid, Power Games, Into the Elsbound, and The Erotic Tales from the Empire. Part 1 out now, Part 2 coming soon. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the sponsors, that is you, the viewing audience, who help make this channel possible, and invite you to financially support the channel or contact me on social media through the links in the link tree. You can say what you want about Trump, but he doesn't want to carry the load alone and has indicated that he is willing to increase the sanctions on Russia, but first wants Europe to increase the pressure. This could be in the sectors of banking, oil, but that's only according to some sources. Some officials saying that Trump wants Europe to make the next move. Some say he is open to a deal that will that endorses the Senate sanction list, but no details. Various officials want Trump's to support the EU using frozen Russian assets to buy US weapons for Kiev, but Washington has said no, they want to leverage the end of the war without escalation, but various articles don't say the same thing. Trump has not indicated any support for the US using frozen Russian assets. And a fear that will lead to further escalation. I mean, we're already at the point where Russia has escalated each time new sanctions, new weapon deliveries. Now, we don't know why this building was hit, whether it was a drone gone astray from electronic jamming, which is most of the time what has happened. But what we do know is that both sides launched a lot of drones and Ukraine was damaged by Russian drone and missile strikes. Now, the United States President has downplayed his meeting with Putin, saying that he wasn't going to be wasting his time. However, Kremlin negotiator is still meeting with Steve Witkoff, and there's possibility that there may be conversations in the near future. Nothing is off the table yet because the meeting was never confirmed and called off before it got to the point. So he called off a meeting that wasn't confirmed, basically, although he was initially supportive. I think also there's the possibility that Putin couldn't come to the meeting because of the UN turning around and deciding to sign the transnational cybercrime deal. So there's a lot of moving parts that, as I often point out, many commentators ignore the moving parts in this situation. However, a Russian missile has obviously struck what appears to be now this is some sort of temporary structure by the looks of it. It's probably an industrial center. Probably a rebuild. Could have been over a truck park. It's definitely, whatever it was, ain't no more. Now somebody's going to say it's a house. Fine. People do that all the time. They always only hit houses according to the Ukrainians and their lasers. They can't accept the truth. The truth will set you free. The truth will help you reach a conclusion to this war sooner than later. Now, both sides have said that they've drowned downed drones. Belgrade seems to be, and Moscow seems to be the target of the day. Trump has indicated that the next meeting is based on a deal. He's got to think that he's going to reach a deal before he meets again. And Zelensky, of course, is tickled pink that his portfolio is going up. I mean, that he and Keir Starmer. You took out a room, love. Oi, keep it off the streets. Crikey, what a bunch of bleeding blotters those two are, eh? All they care about is more destruction. But, notice something? Yeah. 7 drone. There was a air defense worked, though there were explosions reported, but they're being attributed to air defense and falling drone debris. Those drones were headed towards Moscow. No significant damage reported elsewhere, and no successful attacks on Crimea yet again. Zelensky's losing his nut. Of course, he's over there in London boo-hooing about more weapons and more money because his country is falling apart faster than a rickety rickshaw in the worst typhoon that you can imagine. Little bit of fighting going on in the Sumy buffer zone. Same again with Kharkiv, attacks on Kharkiv. Now we've got fighting in the buffer zone north of Kupiansk. We have no fighting reported in Kupiansk. The Russians are still holding most of Kupiansk and surrounds. Now as we go to the area north of Lyman, no advances north of Lyman. There is fighting. Little bit advances and Zakrin towards Lyman. East of Lyman, the Russians have made more advances, though they have they've attacked Ukrainian positions on the outskirts of Seversk. Now as we go, not much has changed, though the Russians have made some movement towards Konsk. It's mostly a battle of artillery. West of Konsk, however, Russians have made advances and lost some territory at the same time. But they've increased their stranglehold on Ruddy and completely cut the two towns in half and made attacks towards Miri. Still fighting going on. No major advances, though they've hit several positions in Pok as well as making advances west of Pok. Now as we move around the map, still not any significant advances, though there are some. Till we get to here, there's been significant advances in the Zaporozhye region, Oblast, where the Russians have made significant attacks. Clearly, they are keeping the Ukrainians busy and attack the outskirts of Orkiv as well. The usual cross-river activity at Kherson, attacks on Odessa, and that's where the Ukrainian war is at. As I said, the Russian Special Envoy for Economic Cooperation is still meeting with... I think the outcome of this talk will affect the outcome of future talks. I think Steve Witkoff and Russia need to stitch out a very complex deal, one that is going to be Euro-proof. And yet again, NATO is talking about deploying troops to Ukraine. Well, it turns out that France wants NATO to deploy troops to Ukraine. And it turns out France claims France is ready, but then only backed off about the specifics, and then claim it's only part of the security guarantees by the Western backers when the ceasefire deal is reached. But again, this is one of the sticking points. Europe cannot back off and say they're willing to make peace with Russia, so they push Russia's buttons, knowing that Russia's going to say no, and Russia's not going to back off because they know once NATO's on their border, NATO is not going to leave. This is what's happened before. Again, this is Western Europe preparing for a conflict with Russia under the guise of peace. Now, Croatia is bringing back the draft to apparently deal with internal and external threats. This is, again, shades of World War I, where Germany increased its troops because it was told Russia was increasing its troops on its border. That was misinformation by the English. The French saw the uprise in German troop deployments, so they declared war on Germany, and shit hit the fan very quickly after that. This is what morons do. They escalate. They always escalate, thinking that everybody else has to back down because I'm the big guy. I'm Zelensky. Everybody, the world revolves around Zelensky. And people would say, yeah, look at all the Ukraine's trending. Zelensky's popular than ever. That's the low IQ mentality. And it drives to war, and the low IQ don't care. They think that, war, we're going to get all the girls. They're going to be so cheap. They forget about the mud, the blood, the guts, the dying, and then they're going to be sad old men for the rest of their lives. Except for the psychopaths. But most of those aren't going to make it through. But this is the problem. Okay? Managed destruction. The worst people in the world sit in government, plotting how to get rid of you. And if you cannot accept that, then I have nothing to further add. You clearly don't understand government and what government really is about. Say with big business. Big business only cares customers. If they sell out 1 million of its own people in order to make a secret trade deal with India and bring in a million Indians, they'll do it. Okay, just look at Microsoft. They sold out the United States time and time again. And what do they get? A slap on the wrist. Yeah. Yet again, the Russian envoy lays out the resolution, territorial issues, Ukraine neutrality, security guarantees for both sides, not just for Ukraine. Okay, that's why they don't want NATO troops in Ukraine, because that doesn't do anything for Russia. It doesn't secure the peace and tranquility of the Russian-speaking people. It does nothing about the war crimes of Ukraine. As again, they pointed out, Russian population was attacked by Ukrainian forces before the conflict started. Whole issue of neutrality and Ukraine wanting to violate that neutrality time and time again. because they can keep getting away with it as long as the socialists and the globalists have their way. And of course, it is a complex issue. It is a war backed and pushed by both China and Russia. But it is also pushed for by India and financially supported by India. And it looks like India is taking the primary financial responsibilities. And it looks like India is going to use the sanctions to try and prey on Russian tankers and Russian oil fleets and take over Russian customers. Just like India leveraged the US-Indian trade deal to destroy Enron. But people forget that India was the primary reason why Enron collapsed. But, of course, Lay shouldn't have engaged in creative accounting. There is lots of blame to go around there. But so many people forget India and it's not paying its bills on Indian gas development. So please like, share and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Patreon, Ko-Fi. I have 2 Patrons, one for my writing, one for my RPG, and one, of course, buy my books, buy my merch. One can find all my links in the link tree, description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Please and thank you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.